us in the Pledge of Allegiance and let us honor all of our veterans as we remember them on this Veteran Day weekend.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'd like to have Mr. Gary Anderson come to the mic. Just a reminder, the Red Line Media tonight is going to be, Red Line Media Alliance is recording this event, and it'll be posted to our Hall of Fame Facebook page following the event, so you can get back on there and watch it anytime you want to.
I'm the housekeeper. You know, I'm not a housekeeper, not a beekeeper, I'm a housekeeper. So this is going to be really exciting. Some of you have been here before, and we're going to go over the essentials of making it through the night alive. First of all, this is a 1903 building, and the elevator, it's not that old, it was put in 1929. But,
Can hear you.
not really. Can't hear me.
Can we sit down?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, 1903. You may sit. Stu told you to stand, so I was not going to override that. If by chance elevator goes, that's your only way down, except for the stairwells, the modern stairwells right over here, and the not so modern stairwells over here on the outside of the building. So nothing's going to happen, but if it did, I ain't know where to go. Restrooms are here and here. All right, let's see. They got it dark up here, so, and I'm old. I want to thank Carlene Morrison, who is the librarian here, and this is their venue. Angela Dale, I've gone above and above, well, I've gone above, helping us get ready for this. And the library, you know all about it. It's one in the top 10 in the state of Arkansas, I understand. And I don't want to get ahead of anything, but the board also set this venue up and make it easier for people like us. This is our home, by the way, the Sports Hall of Fame, Area Sports Hall of Fame. And we have a home down on the second floor. It's a TV that scrolls, so the history of this that's on your program, it's on these pads here, this placemat. That's going to live on and on and on, as long as they'll let us stay here. So it's upgraded every year. So I really want to thank those people for helping us and allowing us to be here. There's bottled water around. This is a really high-level banquet, bottled sound water. And Andy Earls is not here. I think he mentioned that. On the placemat, this is important to me because I have basically to write these biographies. But on the back, if some of you haven't seen it, this is a program, and on the back are abbreviated bios, believe it or not. These are abbreviated. Unprecedented, we had 9 inductees this year. And so it was tough to put, well, I started with Bill Wamsley, and I shrunk it as much as I could. And so, but to get those on there, this is the abbreviated bio, and on Facebook, and the slideshow that, I'm not sure if Lance has started or not, on the slideshow, there'll be a longer story that makes more sense in narrative style. And it's really interesting to read as we have some really interesting people in their lives, how they got to baseball, how they, mostly it was sports. But you can read their stories and we'll leave links, some more interesting things about them. I love biographies, so I think every one of you should read every word that we put on the Facebook. And that's where it lives, on the TV upstairs or downstairs, and on the slideshow that you will see. And we've done it for all these people from years back, last year. The board is on here. I'm not going to call our names out because we're here because we like to do this. And you can read the names. The sponsors are over here. We've got gold sponsors and silver sponsors, and you can see the names. Normally, I like to read all of them out because without these sponsors, we wouldn't be here. We might have a paper certificate and meeting out the river under pavilion, but we wouldn't be here. And what we like to think is a good induction ceremony. But Atlas Asphalt, Ameriprise Financial, Andy Wonkley, Bank of Cave City, Centennial Bank, Citizens Bank, First Community Bank, Merchant and Planters Bank, Outlaw Snacks, and Wood Family Dealerships. And the silver sponsors are Exxon Tiger Mark, Cosmic, Mark Martin Automotives, Roller Crouch Funeral Home, Savon Pharmacy, Thompson's Jewelry, Trip Supply, Wade's Heating, Cooling, Electrical, White River Health, Jamie and Ted Hall, and then another couple. So, let me look at my notes and see if I've forgotten anything. Oh, Hannah Smith is on our board, she's our decorator, and she has some kids. She's an art teacher in Cave City, and she has some Cave City High School students that's getting community service tonight. And last night they worked with us setting it up. So if you see any of those people, thank them. Any past members, well not past, but if you're in the Hall of Fame, anyone here, Bill Luster, I know it's here somewhere. He was elected 2 years ago. And by the way, it's an every other year thing now, it's not an annual. Where's Bill? Somewhere. Okay. He's a world-class archer, if you didn't know. We've gotten considerably diversified in our sports. In the early years, it was baseball, basketball, and football. Now we have racing of all kinds, bowling, you name it. Who else out there? I don't want to leave anybody out. Diane Lambert's here somewhere, isn't she? If you look on 2002, Diane Lambert's name is there. For all you did with area sports back then, and have since then, right? And a lot of other stuff. Linda Weiss is not here apparently. And another one's going to be here, but it's not. Okay. There's some more things I could say, but I'm waiting for the signal. They told me to stall until the food was ready. It's ready? All right.
Okay, guys, so when we get up to get our food, it's going to be through these double doors, right over on this side. Go across the hall to your right, just circle through to the end of the table, and then you can come back down the hall and enter back into the room. So there's water on the back table, as Gary said, there's water and tea in the other room as well. So I'm going to open this up with prayer, and then we can... Okay, before we get started here, I want to give a special award out. It takes a lot of work to get this organized. This particular year, Gary and I have always worked together in the past, but this particular year I sort of took on a new job and I didn't have near as much time to help in organizing this, and Mr. Gary Anderson over here sort of took it all under his wing. We've got some other people here that's really done a lot to help, but Gary is the backbone of this hall inductee class this year, and so I just want to honor him a little bit. We're going to give an award out today. It's going to be called the Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame Award. It's going to be presented to Gary Anderson for all your continued hard work and dedication. You make us Independence proud. Mr. Gary Anderson. You bet. Yeah. I guess he didn't want to. Which is a first.
Well, thank you.
Before we get started here with our first inductee, by popular request, every year I usually tell a story about one of our past inductees and what's the great history of this hall of fame. And I like to tell one about a guy that was inducted in the class of 1988, the first induction class. A guy by the name of Tom Murphy. And he's got a great story, so I'd love to tell this story. For years at Batesville High School, we would give the Tom Murphy Award, which was a multi-sport athlete that excelled in 2 or more sports. And I didn't really know a lot about Tom Murphy until I was asked to be a part of the Hall of Fame board, which was the person in the ring. And so after we researched him a little bit, very unique individual. Tom Murphy was born over in Craighead County near Egypt, Arkansas, about 1906. He had an older brother named Cletus that was about 3 years older than him. When they were young, very young, their mother died. Then later, their father passed away in a farming accident when Tom was 6 and Cletus was 9. And so they sent them over to Batesville, and they lived in the Oddfellows Orphanage, which is where West Elementary School is now. The very first day they put in the school there, they both escaped and ran away trying to get back to Craighead County. The next day, they found both of them in Newport, so that's pretty kind of happening. He was right there. If you go 27 miles in one day, you're a 6-year-old. That's pretty good. But anyway, as time went on, he grew up in the orphanage over there, became a really good athlete at Batesville High School. His brother Cletus had left years earlier, because at that time, when you turned 18, you had to leave the orphanage. And when he turned 18 prior to his senior year, he didn't have anywhere to go, so the superintendent of Batesville Schools, a guy by the name of Sidney Pickens, then moved in with him. Sidney Pickens is the guy that superintendent of Batesville from 1912 to 1930. He's the one that gave the mascot Pioneer. He said, I don't want an animal, I want something stolen, something with integrity that means something. So he chose Pioneer, and he also is the one that led the term of Pioneer to the Quicks. But Tom moved in with him and had a great senior year at Batesville High School. He won 6 events in the district track meet. He was all-state in basketball and was all-state in football. But his basketball team his senior year in 1927 had a record of 30-0 and won the Arkansas State Championship. To this day, the only Batesville High School men's basketball team that ever won the state championship. And in those days, there was only one classification. So I'm talking about they were undefeated against the very best, from Little Rock Central to Jonesboro Air School and staff. In 1927, every year they had a national tournament. That particular year, since Batesville won the state, they and 45 other teams went to a national tournament that was held in Chicago. Believe it or not, Batesville's team won their first 5 games. They got into the championship game for the whole nation. And they played from Cicero, Illinois. Legend has it, whether it's true or not, that Cicero was the head of the mafia at that time. The Batesville kids were told, if you want to get back to Arkansas alive, you better not win that game. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But in reading an excerpt of in her memoirs of Cindy's daughter, Thelma, she wrote a great article about that night. It said that during 1927, at this time, very few people even had radios. So everyone in Batesville that had a radio had everyone come to their house for the ball game. The championship game was the only one that was on the radio. In Batesville, they already beaten on Huron, North Dakota, Roswell, New Mexico. There were several teams, some team out of Georgia and some team out of Michigan. But in her writing, she said that you could not hear anything on the streets of Batesville that night except the dogs barking or everybody yelling when Batesville's team scored a basket. And in the end, Tom Murphy found out with 5 minutes to go in the game, and Batesville lost the national championship game by 2 points to Cicero, Illinois. There were only 5 players in the whole country that year named All-American in high school basketball. Tom Murphy was one, and another was named Wesley Carpenter. 2 of the boys were on the Batesville team out of 5. When they came home down to the railroad depot, which is down where Fox Creek Barbecue is now, it was said that the town met them down there and there was 8 boys on the team, carried all 8 of them back on their shoulders to Main Street and had a huge celebration. And for 1 year from that time on, from that point, for 1 year, all 8 boys on that basketball team could eat at any restaurant they wanted to in Batesville for free. So, Tom, being a great athlete at Batesville, went on to the University of Arkansas. And he's now 4 years there, 3 years he was class president. His sophomore, his junior, and senior year, he was class president at the University of Arkansas. Eventually married a young lady from Fayetteville. But while he was there in athletics, he was all Southwest Conference for 3 years on the basketball team, ran track, and in football in 1932, he quarterbacked the Arkansas Razorbacks to their first ever Southwest Conference championship and was given the Houston Post Award as outstanding player in the Southwest Conference. From that point on, he was drafted by the Chicago Cardinals in the NFL, which of course with the St. Louis Cardinals, now it's the Arizona Cardinals. But he played 4 years later as their starting quarterback and as their punter. So he had a knee injury, brought him back to Arkansas. He was the head coach for 1 year at Little Rock Catholic High School, where he went undefeated as a head coach, and he went to Henderson State University and coached 1 year and went 11-1 in the World War II program. So being in the ROTC at the University of Arkansas, Tom goes and enlists. But what he finds out when he goes to enlist is that he has tuberculosis. So instead of going into the military as an officer, he gets sent to the sanatorium, which at the time was in Boonville. So the family moves to Russellville to get close. And he was in and out of the sanatorium several times. I was reading an excerpt that said, back in the 1970s during the water carnival, it said that 2,000 people at the water carnival stood and gave a 10-minute ovation to Batesville's favorite son, Tom Murphy, so he didn't come back here a few times, but he was in and out. In 1964, he was inducted in the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame along with Paul Bear Bryant. At that time, they said he may be the best all-around athlete in the history of the state of Arkansas. And eventually, he passed away at the age of 72 in 1979, buried in Oklahoma Cemetery. And, a lot of dignitaries came and all. So one thing that was good as an athlete was he was that Tom was even better. He was really a better person. And one other thing about him is in her writings on him at the end it said, the only thing I regret is that Tom Tom did not live long enough to see his granddaughter Elizabeth Ward live this summer. So that's the story of Tom Murphy. I mean, my favorite story actually about somebody that's older come alive and it's become a great athlete. From baby legs up and carry from there as far as. So I want to start out with that, and now we'll get on with our inductions. Thank you. Good to see you. All right, we're going to start out first tonight with the Estes Award. Now, this is a special award. The recipient of this award should have contributed significantly to the area of sports by their means of time, dedication, expertise, or philanthropy, and/or have brought distinction and pride in a positive manner to our area through their actions related to sports on a state or a national level. Bill Estes, for some of you that knew him, and a lot of you in here did, he was a local professional photographer and a gentleman who was beyond generous from the 1950s to the 1980s with his services and products to local schools and sports teams all over our area. I know when I started coaching at Batesville, he filmed every one of our games. And being a young coach, my job was every night, on Friday night, he would take our film, and in those days, they were in the 16 millimeter canisters. He would take them down to Wells Bus Line, they'd take them down to Little Rock and to get them developed, and then I would be waiting for the bus to come in at 6 o'clock on Saturday evenings to get the film and take it to the field house, start watching it. But he was the one that did the filming, and a great man, did a lot for us. So for us to know him, know what a special award this is and what a special person he is, or was. Our recipient this year is Mr. Bill Walmsley. Bill Walmsley's been and continues to be the inspiration and stimulus for projects in Batesville and community at large that benefits citizens of all ages and all walks of life. I find it, I'm very fortunate that I've known Mr. Walmsley and the Walmsley family back from the 1980s, maybe before. As long as I can remember, I've known him. What a great family, what a great man he has been. His crowning legacy is the new and highly regarded Independence County Library, now housed in the historic Barnett Building in Batesville, which is not far from where we're at now. Other notable examples of the community service: he's been president of the Independence County Youth Athletic Summer Programs, chairman of Woodlawn, Woodcrest, and Wildwood Care Facilities, president of the Arkansas Thoroughbred Owners and Trainers Association, which provide an array of benevolent services for the disadvantaged. He's provided legal assistance pro bono to numerous individuals and organizations in need of support. A list of instances of how Bill Walmsley exemplifies community service with generosity of his talent and resources is endless. He was inducted in the Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame for the Estes Award this year, but I want to tell you some other things about Mr. Walmsley and a little bit about his bio. Born in Ball Knob, Arkansas in 1941, he was an outstanding two-sport athlete in track and basketball at Ball Knob High School. He came to Arkansas College where he got a BA in 1963, where he was a 3-year letterman in basketball. He got his law degree from the University of Arkansas in 1966 and then moved back to Batesville in 1966. He practiced law in Arkansas for 46 years. Served 12 years as an Arkansas State Senator, 2 years as a judge at Arkansas Court of Appeals, stockholder director of Atlas Asphalt for 40 plus years. Since 1983, he has owned and raced thoroughbreds, winning 126 races. He's chairman of the Independence County Library Board since 2015, chairman of the board of several local assisted care facilities, president of the Horsemen's Benevolent Area State and National Board, chairman of the board of the State Chamber of Commerce, the board of trustees of Lyon College, First Presbyterian Church, and the elder, I've got to take a breath. On ministry, he's won the Bessie Moore Award
from the Arkansas Library Association. He's been the Distinguished Alumnus Lifetime Service Award, awarded by Lyon College. Industry Distinguished Servant Award by the National HBPA. He's embraced public and community service his entire career. We want to have an emphasis on the word benevolent when we talk to him. And when Mr. Walmsley describes everything and all he's done, I'm going to tell you what he'll talk about the most is his wife Janice of 40 plus years, his 2 boys, his grandkids, his sister, and other relatives. They mean the world to him. So what I would like to do is have Andy and David come up here if you don't mind. I'm going to let you introduce your dad for the Hall of Fame here because I know how important that is to you and him.
Yeah, I'll let you, yours can be the capstone. Growing up in the Walmsley household, sports were very, very important. From the early days back in Jamestown, we played a lot of baseball in the backyard, a lot of football, a lot of basketball. As I grew up, I'm a little older, grew up, and he was always super involved in the Youth Baseball Association and coaching my team. We never won a championship, so you're not here for your win-loss record, Dad. But when I got to junior high, I added football, and he was a big supporter of that. And my whole high school career, whether it was football or baseball, he was always there to support me, and my biggest fan. So I'm so happy to be here and honor you today. Go ahead.
So, I haven't been around much in baseball. I've lived most of my life in Conway. I've had the privilege to raise a stepson since he was 4 years old named Preston Ribbing. He recently got a scholarship to Washita Baptist as a pitcher, third baseman. But I go back, I've coached him ever since he was 5 years old up until 16, and it was showcase ball, travel ball. Anybody that's doing that now, you'll get what kind of resource drain every weekend. It's just consuming, and it's not the same kind of game that it used to be where it's fun. So, looking back at my reflection of what I've learned from Dad and applied it to coaching Preston throughout those years, number one, Dad had me up to T-ball, up to minor little league, right, with the pitch machine. And I think after that, after you might have said a few cuss words at the team, we're like little 7 and 8, you might have said that's enough. So it's really not about what, the best practices you learn from your parents, but you also learn what not to do, right? So what I learned from that was coaching Preston, my stepson, was I don't need to coach him. I need to let somebody else coach him, right? I need to let somebody else handle him, give him instructions, be there to support him, and let him grow on his own, right? And so that was kind of my big takeaway and lessons learned from watching my dad coach Andy, watching him coach me, hitting pop flies in the outfield like you're talking about in Jamestown, all those years. I still can't catch a pop fly. Mark Lambert, state championship, 15-year-old Babe Ruth, Zach Harris hit a line drive out the right field, still can't catch one. Still can't. It's a mental block. So it's really about not just what you showed us, but learning from what's not said and how to do things, right? And so that's my biggest takeaways from you as a father, from you as a coach, as a husband, or those types of things. Learn all those. Thank you.
Now, with great honor that we invite Mr. Bill Walmsley to the stage as the 2024 recipient of the Bill Estes Award presented by Mr. Gary Anderson, Vice President of the Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame.
Mark, I'm not sure you've ever seen me speak before. And it's only temporary, so I'll tell you that. One of the things that I always thought with both of these young men here is that if I kept them involved with athletics, they'd stay out of trouble. I found that that was about half true. I think they got in about half the amount of trouble they would have gotten in if they hadn't been participating in athletics. But whatever I have done here in this community, I have received much more from the community than I've ever given. This is a home, and contrary to my wife, who was born and raised here, I got to choose baseball as my home. But I couldn't have done it without Janice. Janice provided me with the stability and the things I needed to do. Next to her is my sister. She doesn't look like it, but she's my older sister. And come April, she's going to turn 90. Yes, she still plays in golf tournaments and generally plays 2 to 3 times a week on the golf course at Searcy where she lives. So I hope I continue to have those genes. I'm only 83. And again, I thank the foundation so much for recognizing me with this. I am extremely proud because Carlene Morrison and Angela Dale, who run that library, and this is now part of the library. The Independence County Library now has the 3rd floor. We have redone, and you saw when you picked up your food, we redone that front room, and that will be where story time will be in the future. We continue to grow. It's one of the things that I have been most proud of and most involved and gotten support from my friends and my business associates beyond measure. So I thank you. I am extremely proud of receiving this award, and as most awards I receive, I probably don't deserve it. I have a saying: if you live long enough, you'll get awards, but you gotta live long enough. But Stuart, Gary, and the members of the foundation, my sons, thank you all very much. I appreciate it more than I can ever tell you.
Could now have Danny come up on stage with me. The next inductee is going to be Mr. Bill Carson. Bill was most likely the only Pioneer football player to start every game at his position for 4 years for the Razorbacks. And that was every game but one, and that illustrates Bill's soft heart of senior teammate Benji Mahan, who he allowed to start in his place once as a deep snapper on senior day. Bill Carson was a wonderful young man that both Coach James and I had the privilege of coaching out of high school. I can remember a story. I was thinking of Bill the other day. I don't know why I remember this, but when Bill was a senior in high school, he and another friend of his, Wade Kaplinger, went with me. We decided, we saw this movie that was playing over at Jonesboro. We were talking about it. I said, hey guys, I'll just drive over if you want to go. And so we went over like on a Tuesday night and watched, it was a football movie at, I think the Malco over at Jonesboro, and it was called The Program. Anyway, we got through watching that, we were leaving and looked, and there was another movie playing that was a football movie, and we said, we'll just go come back tomorrow night. So we did, and that movie was Rudy. And so 2 nights in a row, Bill and I and Wade went over and drove all the way on a school night and watched movies. But we had a good time. I had a good time around those guys. Bill was a super young man. After he graduated in 1993 football season, he may have thought his football career was over,
but not so. And Bill had one talent that was better than anybody else in the state of Arkansas, and he had the fastest pop time as a snapper. And I remember the day Coach Horton from the University of Arkansas came by and he was looking for a deep snapper and went out there and with Coach James and they timed Bill, and sure enough he said he's the fastest I've had this year. And before long Bill was up at the University of Arkansas and he went up there and as fate would have it, he thought he might redshirt his first year, but their snapper got injured, and Danny can tell that story more so than I can, and he was thrust into action and stayed there for 4 years as the starting deep snapper for the University of Arkansas. So I'm going to stop right there and let Coach James, and the reason I'm going to let Coach James talk now is because Coach James had a lot to do with Bill getting the scholarship at the University of Arkansas. Coach James was, before he came to Batesville, he was the defensive coordinator at Conway for the Conway Wampus kids. And he came to Batesville. Well, at Conway, he had coached a young man that was a pretty good athlete by the name of Tim Horton. And the Horton family and Danny James, getting the wrong coach, he's ahead. Every coach I ever coached for, head coach I coached for, their names start with a D. Dan Foley, Danny James, Dave King, Dennis Pendergrass. So it's hard, sometimes I get confused. But because of his relationship with Danny, he always was calling about players and so on and so forth. So Danny played a big part in Bill getting looked at and getting the scholarship to the University of Arkansas. So I want him to be able to tell this story.
I'm not stalling for time, okay? Bill Carson was a great deep snapper, but for us at the Batesville High School and at the junior high, he was a position player. And a lot of us didn't ever really think that the deep snapper was that big a deal. And I will say that the thing with the University of Arkansas, I was always wondering why that Arkansas got into depth problems with the deep snapper, but I'm glad they did, and they took a look at him for that. I want to say that when he came to us at Batesville High School, he was already a good deep snapper. Okay, he came from the junior high ready to go, and I talked to the junior high coaches about it, and Coach Stade came up and we were talking about that. And I said, well, if you are so good, you need to teach me the technique and see if I can snap. And he worked with me a little while and realized that he was going to need a lot more time to work with me. So Bill must have had a knack for it. And in the February of 1994, when Bill wasn't going to play any spring sports, and Coach Horton sent a position coach to our school, and I didn't even know he was coming to coach. Mr. Coots called me to the office. I thought I was in trouble. And he said, "You've got a coach from the University of Arkansas here," and I didn't know he was coming. So I talked to him, and he said, "Who's this snapper you got? I need to look at him." And so we went down to the field house one cold morning, got Bill out of class. It was still pretty early, and Bill just took his coat off, and he walked over, and I said, "Bill, you need to warm up in it." He said, "No, I haven't snapped in months, and so, but I can snap it." So I stood behind him, and we snapped it about 12 yards, and he snapped me a ball, and he snapped it really good, and I was fortunate enough to catch it. And the coach from Arkansas said, "Well, you realize that we snapped at 15 yards instead of 12, and I probably knew that, but I wasn't thinking about it." So I said, "You catch it." And so he marked off 15 yards. And Bill, first time he ever snapped at 15 yards, and he ripped off 2 or 3, and he said, "You're good enough, young man. I'm going to get your information. We'll let you know something here pretty soon." So I have to make a long story a lot shorter on my part. Mrs. Massey that lives over where a lot of things have been in the school that a lot of you went to high school in, she knew what was going on everywhere. She knew a lot about what was going on with Razorbacks. She sent me a couple of tickets that first Saturday football game in Little Rock, and we was playing SMU, and she thought because Bill was going to be on the team he was going to get to snap the ball, that we might want to be there. Bill was the backup snapper, and according to some of the materials I read, a young man named Brian Olson was the main snapper, and he was a big guy, about 2 of Bill. And so Stuart and I were together there, sitting in the north end zone, and we were watching them warm up, and we noticed on Mr. Olson's leg that he was really bandaged heavily, and it had a little limp. And Stuart and I deduced that Bill may have been playing quicker than we thought. And sure enough, the first series of offense, Arkansas, they kicked off to us, Arkansas had the ball, and that lineman went down. It was also the snapper. He was an offensive lineman. He went down. So the first series of plays, we got a penalty. They sacked us one time. So we were almost backed up in the end zone when we had the punt. And poor little old pioneer Bill Carson had to run onto the field from the sideline in front of over 50,000 people. And I don't know, well, I do know now how it felt, but I didn't know at the time. But I was in shock. It's like one of your own kids is fixed to go out and perform, and just felt it for him. And, you know, he ran out there, and the little body in between those 2 big linemen on each side, snapped a beautiful snap, and got the punt off. And fortunately, the Razorbacks went on and beat SMU that day, had a good score, and didn't have to punt again that day. But I thought that, and Stuart and I were a wreck after all that happened right there in front of us, and then as the story goes, he snapped all the way through his years at Arkansas until he graduated. And there's many other stories that we could tell about Bill and things that happened in that series of time. He was a good student, and he already had another plan other than playing college football. And just the series of him having that skill and circumstances, he's able to do that. And it's an honor for me to get to talk about that tonight. Thank you.
I'd like to also emphasize that Bill was not just a deep snapper, he was also the short snapper for all 4 years, which is very unusual to be doing both. I'd also like to say this. What I can remember about Bill at the University of Arkansas is I was fortunate one time to be able to go to an Auburn game in 1995, and a guy that had done his practice teaching under me was a state trooper in Little Rock in Pulaski County, so he had the game duty, so I got to stand on the sideline, and it was against Auburn in 1995, and the Razorbacks were playing them to try to win the SEC Western Division, and it was a really, really close game, but I remember standing on the sideline there, and suddenly I felt a bump on me, and it was Bill. He walked to see me down there, walked up and said, "You excited?" And I said, "Yeah, but probably not near as excited as you are." And I had a good laugh, but I was glad to be there that night because the Razorbacks did beat Auburn, and they did make it to the SEC championship game that year. So, with that being said, I'd like to invite Bill's family up here on stage. Anyone that would like to come. And it's with great honor and pride that we induct Mr. Bill Carson into the 2024 Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame.
I had to write it down. After graduating from Batesville High School, my dad had intended on enlisting in the Marines, but then had an opportunity to be a walk-on for the Razorback football team instead. As they mentioned, he quickly earned himself a full ride as a deep snapper for his 4 years there. My dad was honestly very humbled about his time as a Razorback and a very private person in general. We could talk all day about my life or their lives, but I honestly wish we would have talked a little bit more about his, so I don't have many stories about him as a Razorback, but I do know that he watched every game that he could, and he did say that there was nothing that compared to being on the field, and I know he never forgot the feeling of being a Razorback. I actually think I know that's why he didn't attend games, because he said it just doesn't compare at all, sitting in the stands versus being on the field. Although he isn't here to accept this, he didn't really enjoy much attention anyway, so my family and I were very honored and grateful to be here to accept this for our dad and honor one of his greatest achievements. So on behalf of Bill Carson, thank you Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame for this award. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Mr. Daniel Hegwood, who was born in Batesville, Arkansas, and grew up in Pleasant Plains, where he graduated from Midland High School in 2002. Daniel was an uncommon athlete in high school, being honored as All-State in basketball and in baseball 3 different times. As a left-handed pitcher, Hegwood won his first 43 high school decisions before settling for an incredible overall mark of 43-1. Not just a pitcher, he led the state in hitting with a batting average of .618 and pitching with an ERA of 0.31. After an outstanding high school career, he was selected by the Chicago White Sox in the 16th round of the 2003 MLB draft. 480th overall pick, made his pro debut that summer with the American League champion White Sox, going 8-4 with a 2.28 ERA. Had 74 strikeouts and leading the Arizona League in wins while making the All-Star team. Knee injury kept Daniel out of the 2003 season, but he spent the next year in Kannapolis with the Kannapolis Intimidators. That's home of Dale Earnhardt. No wonder they're called the Intimidators, huh? The Kannapolis Intimidators, and went 10-4 with 99 strikeouts and 21 starts. He began 2005 with the Winston-Salem Warthogs, going 8-2 with a 3.77 ERA and 15 starts before being promoted in July to the AA Birmingham Barons, where he went 6-1 with a 1.74 ERA and 11 outings. Daniel wound up spending 7 seasons in professional baseball, almost all with the AA teams, where he found the most success with such organizations as the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox. He's on the 40-man roster with the White Sox, Rangers, Phillies, and Red Sox. And that's about as close as you can get, which meant that he was in the top 15 prospect list of each organization, in addition to the 25 major leaguers that made up each club's roster. Hence, 25 plus 15 equals 40. Higher salary, benefits, prestige, and opportunity. Quite an accomplishment in the baseball world. In addition, Hegwood was named 3 All-Star teams in his minor league career. The pinnacle of Hegwood's career was playing with the Sacramento, the AAA affiliation of the San Francisco Giants, where of course AAA baseball is the last stop before the major leagues, making him a rarity of uncommon proportion in Independence County baseball history. What a great year, career for Daniel, season, career, whatever. So it's with great honor that we
induct Daniel Hagwood into the Independence County Sports Hall of Fame in the class of 2024. Daniel will come up here along with any family members that would like to accompany. We'd love to have you all today. I'd just like to say this, I've always liked to tell this joke, but Midland's baseball program was always so good that I used to kid Coach Branscombe. I said, I want you one time to call down to Little Rock and try to get a game scheduled against J.A. Fair when they had a good baseball team, because I said I want the headlines to say, fair to Midland. Never did get that accomplished.
I want to thank everyone. I want to thank my wife and kids for being here. I want to thank my mom and dad that's at the table for spending all the time and effort from all these games and practices. And as you see, I know exactly how much time and effort it takes for all that stuff. Thanks to the Independence County Hall of Fame for this recognition. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
Next inductee is Coach Dave King. Dave, I want you to know I did have Lyndall invited to come here to say his favorite deal, but he said he tried to, but I don't see him here. But I'd like to say this, a very special person to me who I was able to work with for 19 seasons and see first class what kind of person this is. So this is a great honor for me to be up here tonight to induct him. Dave King was born in Fayetteville, Arkansas on July 19, 1958. He grew up in Elkins, Arkansas and graduated from Elkins High School where he was a standout four-sport athlete. One of those sports was football, and his high school coach was Bill Alvarez, who would greatly influence his decisions to go into coaching. Coach King played baseball at the University of Arkansas and John Brown University at JBU in 1980. He was named an All-American in baseball. In 1981, Dave began his football coaching career at Garrison, Texas as an assistant. In 1984, he became the head coach with a record of 28, 12, and 1 in 4 years at that same Garrison. He went to Madisonville, Texas in 1988, where he took on a total rebuild program and finished 0-15 before winning his first game. They quickly became winners, though, and finished the next 7 seasons at 39, 23, and 4. While in Texas, he also served as an athletic director, head basketball coach 1 year, and a successful head track coach for 5 years. Wanting to be closer to his parents, King returned to Arkansas in 1996 to Batesville High School, where he was appointed head football coach and athletic director by Dr. Kenneth James and the BSD School Board. From 96 to 2022, he served in those positions, and then afterwards, 2 years as the athletic director. 2024, Coach King retired. He's also inducted in the Arkansas Hall of Fame, and he won more games at Batesville High School than any other coach in the high school's long history, with an outstanding record of 207 wins, 99 losses, and 2 ties. His overall record as a head coach in football was 274 wins, 149 losses, and 7 ties. At BHS, his always competitive football teams won 8 5A East Conference championships with several runner-up finishes. They made 9 trips to the state playoff semifinals, including 7 in a row. 4 trips to the state championship game, 3 times a state runner-up with the state championship trophy in 2003. Dave King was named 5A East Coach of the Year 8 times, Coach of the Year from the Little Rock Touchdown Club in 2011-12 season, Hooten's Farm Bureau Coach of the Year in 2011-2012, and Outstanding Coach from the National Federation Foundation in 2003 and 2004. He was inducted in the Arkansas Coaches Hall of Fame in 2023, and the Independence County Area Hall of Fame is proud to present Dave King as an inductee of our class of 2024. So, Coach King would come up. Debbie, you want to come up?
Give me shelter. Quick story I wasn't going to tell, but I'm going to go ahead and tell it. Every time we had the pregame, I picked out the pregame music because the kids wanted to listen to rap, and I was older and wanted to listen to rock and roll. And Nick Blasey was a 10th grader, and we were in a playoff game in Batesville, and that song came on. It always came on as soon as we started running offense. They put on Mick Jagger and the boys playing "Give Me Shelter." It's my favorite all-time song. And I called Nick over there because I knew he'd be our quarterback the next year. I said, "Nick, you hear that music here?" He said, "Yeah, Coach." He's hanging on every word. "Yeah, Coach, yeah. I said, "You know what that means, Pioneer Stadium?" "No, Coach, I don't know." Somebody's finna get ass kicked. He reminded me of that just the other day. Linda Waits, Stu's talking about Linda Waits. I love Linda Waits, but he used to irritate me when I first got to Batesville. Every time we run out on the field, Linda had this long spiel about walking across the plains of Texas, blah, 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 blah. And about 6 weeks of that, on a Saturday morning, I said, "Linda, I need to talk to you." I said, "What's wrong, Coach?" I said, "You know I'm from Arkansas, right?" "Oh, you really?" I said, "I was born in Fayetteville." I said, "I was raised in Chicken Bristle, Arkansas, right above Elkins, about 12 miles on a dirt road. They just paved it 2 years ago." I said, "I'm from Arkansas." So that kind of ruined his spiel, and he quit after that and started with his regular routine. But I didn't probably have a chance to be anything other than an athlete. My mom was a 3-time All-State basketball player at Elkins, and my dad was a Major League Baseball player for 12 years. And I really, Daniel, I'm envious of you because that's all I ever wanted to be, watching my dad growing up as a Major League Baseball player. So I'm very envious, and I know you had a great career. Something about Stu Smith, and I'm going to tell this story. I came to, and it's kind of weird how I got to baseball. I see Ken James out there, and I'm going to tell this story very quickly. A good friend of mine, Bill Harrelson, had come back home. He was also from Elkins and coached with me about 10, 12 years in Texas. He came home a year before I did, and I had the only 2 grandkids. So I said, they're in the 7th grade, 8th grade, it's time to get back home, get them close to Mom and Dad. So I had an interview, and I've never told anybody what the interview was at. It was at Mountain Home. And I was going to go up and interview for the Mountain Home job, and on a Monday afternoon, about noon, I get a call from Bill Harrelson, one of my best friends in the world. He said, "Hey, Coach, there's this place you might like better than Mountain Home." I said, "Really? What?" He said, "Batesville." He said, I think it's going to be a good job." He said, "You need to call about it." Well, I just got done with all season, and I said, "Well, I'll call in the morning." And something told me, I probably better go ahead and call. Well, I called, and I guess got your secretary. And they said, "Yeah, it closes today at 3 o'clock. You're going to have to fax your stuff." And I looked, it was like 2:15. So I went down the field after real quick, got my stuff together, faxed it in, and about 15 minutes later she called me back and said, "Can you be here Thursday?" And I said, "Yeah, I can be here Thursday." So, and the rest, I guess, is history. Then I get to Batesville, and I wound up marrying Miss Batesville. And I'm afraid I'll probably go be playing here. I do want to say thank you to my wife, Deb. You can do some research about Pioneer football, and you can see when we really started winning football games, and it wasn't when Dave King came here, it's when I married that gal back there. She is a great coach's wife. I mean, there's something special. And you guys that coach know what I'm talking about. I mean, a lot of long hours, a lot of reheated meals, and a lot of things go into being a coach's wife. And I appreciate you, Deb. I also want to say thank you to all the coaches that I had the privilege to work with. I see some of them here tonight. Just a great group of men and administrators, people. I'd start thanking people, but I'd forget somebody. Gary Bridgman, you know, he used to, in the radio interview, always say, leave it with the coach, why not us, why not now? And I said, heck, it beats me, let's do it. So I appreciate those times, Gary. Dr. James, I appreciate you bringing me to Batesville very much. And Stu, I started to tell a story about Stu, and the one thing Dr. James wouldn't let me do, I had a couple of coaches I'd like to bring to Batesville. And of course, Dr. James is a great man. I admire him greatly, but he wanted me to come to Batesville. He said, Coach, we can't bring the other coaches to Batesville. And after the board meeting, I was hired. One of the coaches came up to me and said, or one of the board members, he said, Coach, I know you're disappointed you can't bring one of your coaches or a couple of them, but he said, we got a really good baseball coach here. Stu Smith, he said, I bet he's going to be good help to you. What that board member didn't know, Stu's a great baseball coach, but heck, he's probably a better football coach. And I'll never forget the day I drove into Batesville, Arkansas. It was in February, about the 3rd, and I came up that hill to the high school and looked out there in the stadium. It's spit snow. It's about, it's probably 38, 40 degrees maybe. I think they let school out, and there's a bunch of kids out there running sweats on the track, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I look out there, and one of the coaches, boy, he's running the heck out of those kids. I said, man, this is going to be awesome. These kids go out to work, and yada, yada, yada. Stu, you remember what I'm talking about? It was a daggone baseball team. Stu had a baseball team out there running, and you had to get X amount of points before you even got to go to the baseball field. I said, holy cow. But I know, Stu, a lot of the great memories I have was those first years you and I at the field house store. Gosh, 1 o'clock in the morning, Stu would get excited. He'd get on that board and show me this and that. His face would be covered, he looked like an Indian. And I started laughing, and I said, Stu, it's 1 o'clock, it's probably time to go home. No, just show me that one more thing, Coach. And I'm telling you, he was a great first assistant and did an outstanding job. And I see somebody else out here in the audience that I definitely want, I can go down every coach that I've had and I've worked with, but somebody I definitely want to give a shout out to is Doug Walls. Would you stand up, Doug Walls? Doug Walls is the best junior high coach I've ever known because he fills all the boxes. He gets lots of kids to the high school. They are disciplined, they know how to work, and they have respect for the program. And that's all I ever wanted. And I'm telling you, Doug had as much to do with the building of the program at Batesville than myself or Stu or anybody else. I appreciate so much the group, the committee putting this together. I'm very, very honored to be part of this 24 class. I know how much hard work goes into this, and I probably talked a lot longer than I should have. My wife told me 5 minutes, and I'm probably well past that right now. But again, Deb, my family, and all the coaches and all the kids that wore the orange and black, it was a great honor for me to be their coach, and thank you very much.
Wish we had a lot more time tonight because there's so many stories I know that we all could tell. And maybe afterwards sometime we can get together and all get together and tell them. Our next inductee is Mr. Mark Lambert. I first met Mark back in the 1980s, and we were both coaching Little League teams. He and I coached together on some all-star teams. I remember Mark gets so nervous when Lance would pitch. We went to Corning one night, and the mosquitoes were eating us alive. And it's a close game. I said, we're going to put Lance in there and end this game, get out of here. So Lance, he goes out there. I look down at Mark, and here's the dugout. Lance out there pitching. I look down at Mark over here. I said, you remember what I said to you? Yeah. I said, you better turn around and watch, because I said, 20 years from now, you'll be wishing you did. And he did. And sure enough, Lance struck the guy out, got out of it, and we won. But knowing him a long time, consider a very good friend. He's, of course, known as the play-by-play announcer of the Batesville Pioneer football team beginning in 1996, the same year that Coach King came, to the present, 29 years in counting. He also did Pioneer baseball from 91 to 96. Remember your sidekick, Bob Connell. He still talks about it. He had such a good time with you. Also, he did some basketball play-by-play. Has spent a couple years as a Pioneer basketball play-by-play guy. Lyon College also? Well, I thought so. I remember one of the greatest pictures I've seen. Mark gave me a picture, and he was doing a game at Lyon College, and his color guy was George Kell. You did have to be in the booth with George Kell, and George had signed. Mark had been gracious enough to get George to sign a picture and give it to me. But so he's called a lot of ball games and has that soothing voice, sort of like Gary B. I couldn't wait to hear Gary B. go give the election results every night, because if you didn't, hey, every once in a while I slap myself because I go to sleep listening to him, because he would put you to sleep, and his voice was calming. Mark's the same way when you listen to him. He was known for his calm demeanor and knowledgeable presentation, coupled with an objective analysis of the game. Lambert was born in Starkville, Mississippi. He lived in Memphis briefly and then in South Carolina before moving to Stuttgart, Arkansas. As a junior in high school, where he graduated in 1967, he played football for the Ricebirds and also excelled at tennis, winning an individual state championship as a senior and finishing as runner-up as a junior. He had an opportunity to go on and play tennis at Baylor, but instead chose to enroll at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, where he graduated in 1971 with a Bachelor of Arts degree and in 1974 with a Master of Arts. Mark met Diane there. They moved to Arlington, Virginia, then to Batesville in 1975, where they have remained to the present with 2 children, 8 grandchildren. Mark serving on the local community and statewide boards and multitude of civic positions, and have made several contributions. He's been president of Atlas Asphalt since 2005, an extraordinary business that has contributed mightily to the employment and continued vitality of the local economy and beyond. Mark also has a passion for horses, thoroughbred racing specifically, and most often at Oaklawn and Hot Springs. As an owner since 1985, he served the industry in a number of ways. Vice chairman of the Arkansas Racing Commission since 2011, board member of the Arkansas Association of Racing Commission International, 2012 to the present. And those are just a few examples of ways that Mark Lambert has served his community at large. And I said, by far the best known radio broadcasting voice in the history of Independence County. So it is with great honor that I introduce my good friend Mark Lambert into the 2004 Independence County Area Athletic Hall of Fame, and his family members want to come up here, come on up. Like to introduce first Mark's son, Mr. Lance Lambert. Pretty good baseball player in his day. Mark's senior year at Batesville, he was Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Arkansas as a high school baseball player. So I'm going to let him say a few words about his dad.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. If you've ever heard me talk before, I talk a long time. I told my kids I wouldn't talk very long. I am a little bit nervous because just about every coach that they've announced at some point has made me run. And I have irritated at some point. 1996, I was 16 years old. Dad started doing the radio for the Pioneers. Also Coach King's first year, like they were talking about. Baseball, football, basketball. I really kind of thought he'd stop whenever I got out of high school. But apparently that was something a little selfish. I kind of thought it was a phase. I moved on. Living out of state, Dad would call me on Saturday mornings and give me all the highlights of what had gone on from the games before. I just absolutely loved it. I questioned his sanity at one point when I talked to him, and he was in North Dakota doing football for Lyon College, and the night before he had done Pioneer football, so he had gone from Arkansas all the way to North Dakota. And honestly, at one point during all of his announcing, I really thought that he was just doing it for smoking cigars with Dave King and Stuart Smith after they'd have a win for the Pioneers. So I want to thank Independence County area for the family and appreciate y'all and nothing Daddy. The voice of the Pioneers, Mr. Great Scott, Mark Lane.
I didn't know he was going to be up here. And this is not about my golf, right? This is something else. Gary Lebo can contribute. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you to the hall. So many people to thank. Gary Bridgman and the Grace family who gave me the opportunity to do something that I thought I could do. Bob Connell, he was part of that team, and so you can blame Bob for a lot of this. Head coach Dave King, who gave me complete access to Pioneer football. I think a lot of people thought I was one of the coaches. I was there so much. And I was out on the field, even caught a couple of punts. And of course, the hundreds of players that I got to know, not only football, but basketball, baseball. And those relationships meant a lot to me. With the coaches, all the coaches over the years, Coach King, Coach Smith, who's been like a brother to me all these years. Can't tell how much I cherish the relationship with Coach King and Coach Smith. And fans. Even the fans who would come up to me at Walmart and say, "What the hell are you talking about?" I had so many people come up to me and said, "Now, what happened? You didn't say this, you didn't say that. Why didn't you give the score more?" So I learned a lot that first couple of years, but just walking through Walmart and having people come up to me and say, "You need to do this, you need to do that." But also Gary Bridgman and Bob Connell did a wonderful job in kind of tutoring me to how to be a semi-broadcaster. But most of all, my family, Lauren and Lance, and I'm not going to name all the grandchildren, we'd be here for a week. But most of all, to the cornerstone of our family, Diane. She put up with this for numerous years, over 29. And she enabled me to do what I really wanted to do, and that was be a broadcaster. When I was in high school, and I lived in Stuttgart, I would listen to the Cardinal baseball broadcast on KWAK, KWAC, of course, in Stuttgart. And I wasn't a big Cardinal fan, but I was a big Bob Gibson fan. And Bob Gibson, when he pitched, he would go 9 innings, which they don't do anymore, right, Daniel? He would go 9 innings, and the game would be about 2 hours. And I loved to listen to him pitch. But I also listened because of one person, that was Jack Buck. Gary Bridgman had the privilege of interviewing Jack Buck, but Jack Buck was, I would listen to him and I would kind of imitate and say the same things he did. And when I was doing baseball broadcast, if a pitcher ever was about to walk the opposing pitcher, like it was 3-0, Jack Buck would say, "He wouldn't walk the opposing pitcher, would he?" So things like that I picked up on and I used all through my career. The late Bob Hughes was my close friend, and he filled in the occupation box on the IRS tax form with sports broadcaster. I wanted to mention Bob. Loved him. My first broadcast, Pioneer football. Mountain Home, Arkansas, September 96. Dave King on the field. I walk out there. I was by myself. Dan Fagan didn't show. Coach King looked at me and said, "Can you do this?" And my reply was, "Yeah, I think I can. Can you do this?" And of course he did. And his good friend, Kevin Miller, was the opposing head coach. And I've always cherished that first game, Coach, that ironically, the two of us now have been inducted in the same night. Favorite moments? Of course, the Pioneer Championship in 2003, where Dr. Shelton and I got to climb the stairs at War Memorial. We couldn't even find the elevator, so we had to climb the stairs. Dr. Shelton, we were a team. I'd tee it up and he'd hit it right down the middle. I think we were actually more of a football/comedy team than we were a broadcast team. We had sayings like Dubby, Great Scott when we would fumble, Cussing Billy Smith, who was, we saw the ghost of Cussing Billy Smith and Wind often, and there was a good measure of Seinfeld thrown in as well. Some of my favorite moments, other than the football championship, Coach King, you and I talked about this the other day, were our Thanksgiving practices. We were getting ready for either a semifinal or a final game. We did 7 years in a row. And it was such a great reunion of all the football players and the parents and the grandparents. And Diane and Debbie King would have cider and chocolate milk and the kids running around. It was such a family atmosphere. And we even played a little football that day. I cherish those memories, Coach. Also a couple of championships, baseball championships with Lance and Coach Smith and David Walmsley. We just had some great times for us, like for me. But probably my most favorite moment was the day we dedicated the Lyon College baseball field. And as Stuart alluded to, George Kell, famous Hall of Famer from 1983, came over to be my color man. Now, you got to remember, George Kell was a Hall of Fame baseball player, but he was also inducted to the Hall of Fame in Michigan as a broadcaster, as a play-by-play. And I never got nervous, and I still don't get nervous for ball. Never have. But that one day was an exception. And Mr. Kell was driven up in his Cadillac, and Diane's father and I, Mr. House, we went to meet him and brought him in. And one thing you need to remember about Mr. Kell, he was chairman of the Arkansas Highway Commission, and he's the reason we got the White River Bridge, the new one, in the 1970s. He was a great man. We went up to the booth, and we started doing the ball game. And one thing that you always worry about when you're doing baseball is that you can have a rain delay. Well, fortunately, we had a rain delay that day. And I got to have a question and answer session with Mr. Kell, and he was so gracious. I mean, he was such a wonderful person. He had that real deep radio voice that I was just absolutely thrilled to have had. So I started asking him questions, and we talked for maybe 15 to 20 minutes during the rain delay. And I asked him what was his favorite moments, and of course he won the batting title in the American League in 1949, and he beat probably the best hitter of all times that year, Ted Williams, the splendid sprinter, 3.342, 342.9 to 342.7. That's how close it was. But he told me the thing that was he was most proud of during that season was he only struck out 14 times all year. I mean, some of these major leaguers strike out 14 times in a series now. The best pitcher he ever faced, he didn't hesitate. Bob Feller, the heater from Van Meter. And finally, when Mr. Kell retired, he went to Florida. And CBS offered him a show. And it was kind of a pilot show, so he didn't know if it was going to make it or not. So he called his really good friend Joe DiMaggio and said, Joe, I really need you to come do this first show with me because I want it to be a success. Back then, baseball players didn't make a lot of money. They had to have an off-season job. And Mr. DiMaggio was such a retiring, reclusive person. He said, George, I just don't, I can't do that. I really don't want to do this. Joe, you don't understand. This is my first show. I've got to have you here so it'll be a success. So finally, Mr. DiMaggio relented. And he said, okay, I'll do it under one condition. George said, Mr. Bell said, yes, anything. What was it? What's the condition? He said, we won't talk about Marilyn Monroe. I'm going to leave you with this. Another baseball story, another Pioneer baseball story. This was back in the 90s. We were playing in Mountain Home, another one of those tournaments in the springtime when it always rains or snows. And so as fate would have it, we're always playing the Bombers, and they're always in those clown uniforms. But we start the game at 10:30 at night. 10:30 at night. And we have rain delays during that game. And about the second or third inning, we're in a rain delay. And I told the engineer, I said, there's nobody listening to this ball game. Let's go. I'm going to go sit out in the stands like I did the other night. And he said, no, Mr. Lambert, there are people out there listening. I said, no. They're either here, their parents, grandparents, friends, they're all here. And I said, I'll prove it to you. I said, you can't even give away the radio station? He said, well, we've got some coffee cups and baseball caps. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say the first 10 people that call in and can give me the correct score of this ball game will win a KBTA cup or hat. And he said, okay. So we rock along there, another rain delay, about an inning later. I tried to get hold of the engineer, and he wouldn't answer. So I'm doing the ball game by myself. I'm having to do the ads. And finally, he answered the phone. I said, where the hell have you been? I've been doing this whole thing by myself. He said, well, I've been answering the phone. I said, what do you mean answering the phone? He said, well, you told people you're going to give stuff away. I've been rooting around here trying to find stuff to give away. I said, well, how many people called in? He said, well, I quit counting after 25. I said, well, who was the first person to call in? He said, it was a lady, an older lady, and this was 1 o'clock in the morning. She was sitting up doing her Sunday school lesson for church the next day. So I learned a valuable lesson. Yeah, there's always somebody listening. You better be on your best behavior. Dr. James and Ken, thank you for coming. Gary and Ron, good friends, all of these. Dr. James, I want to say, Sandy, thanks for giving us Dr. James to come back. Dr. James, we love your family so much. Gary Bridgman, Gary and Verona, my family, thank all of y'all. Thank you.
I'm going to have Mr. Gary Anderson come up here and introduce our next inductee. I remember one story too I want to add about Mark is that I remember him telling me before that when he was in high school, they came up and played a game when he was at Stuttgart at Daffin Field here in Batesville, and that he had not been to Batesville, and he went home and told his mom, and he said, man, I just saw the nicest town that I have ever been to. And it was Batesville, and she goes, well, I've heard that's a nice town, and lo and behold, he wound up moving back here. We're glad he did.
Two days ago, I was told that I was coming out of the bullpen. He's supposed to do all these, all 9, and he started begging that he was getting old and couldn't hack it anymore. So he said, and you know Danny Nelson a little bit better than I do, which is true. Some of it I can tell, and some of it I can't. But one thing, teachers always say this, always treats your students good. And he really wasn't ever in my class, but he was at a school that I was in and so forth. And I knew him. And you never know what they're going to become. And as you go through this story here, you're going to be amazed. For example, how many people in Batesville, Arkansas knows where Racecraft Chassis shop is? Danny Nelson's Racecraft shop. Anybody know?
Pepsi Road.
Well, besides James Mountain. It's over across the river behind Pepsi plant. And people from all over the nation know where it is because he builds the things you're going to see up here whenever the slideshow starts. But you've seen those big dragsters. Well, he builds them, and they're in demand, and he is very famous and has a reputable reputation as a businessman first, and then he's a racer. Well, how did he become a racer? Well, let me read this. I'm not going to read it all. But this is the story I'm talking about that's on the slide and will be on the Facebook for all of you to read. But from a home garage shop to creating a nationally known and highly respected business to becoming the best as a world champion in your field. It is rare that anyone has the opportunity to make a career choice doing the very thing they were so passionate about as a youngster. Danny Nelson Racecraft Chassis and a world championship as the National Hot Rod Association's top dragster of 2019. Now I'm going to go over to the short story. But before I do that, a friend of mine that most of you in here know, a few months ago he said, well, we're going to have a Hall of Fame this year. And I said, yes. Well, who you got? And I named a few off, and I said, Danny Nelson. He said, Danny Nelson? Are you kidding me? That's that kid, actually he was a young man, in Meta Heights that kept us up for 2 years. He had a home garage and he spent his time, he's a novice then, he's beginning, and he tunes that car and tunes that car. And he said, he kept us up for, now that's what he remembers you for, but he said some other good things. And I lived on the west side, I think I could hear it down the hill. And another story is that I actually was a drag racer for a short amount of time. And he was a drag racer for more than a short amount of time until today. But we had the same mentor, in a way, a man called Aubrey Galloway. And so he taught us the ed equipment and how to drag race and so forth. And mine was out on Greenbrier Bottoms mostly, or over in Newport or someplace. And so I tell the two men here. In about 2 years, I spent all the gas money I could afford in my car. I had a hot car. I sold it and bought a Ford Maverick, the geekiest car ever. And Danny just kept on going to the top of his profession. And so, he is from Batesville area, and his dad took him to a drag race when he was 10 years old, and he decided that's what he was going to do. Well, you don't believe a 10-year-old kid, but that's what happened. That's what he became. First of all, he had to learn the trade, so he started skipping school on the west side and started working for a guy in the garage and learned the trade. And it turns out he had an aptitude for it. And apparently, it's very, very intelligent to do all the things that he does in that world. It's a multi-million-dollar business. It's much more than you think. And of course, it takes a lot of, not just the work ethic and stick to it, I'd say it's tenacious. He just kept on and on and on over the years, getting better and better and better. And so he made it to the top. He started just building, in that shop at home, he built one for himself, but he sold it to a friend. And so that started us out. So he decided to build the chassis and sell them. And over the years, he became an accomplished bracket racer. Now, some of these terms I don't understand. He was a bracket racer for several years, and later he became after the National Hot Rod Association created Top Dragster as a national contest. Then in 2015. But he proved to be more than just a builder. So after beginning to compete on a full-time basis in 2016, he finished 13th in the national points standings, and then he made himself better and better, eventually to the championship year of 2019. Now he's got some other accomplishments that you can read on this, but several impressive enough in their own right. And National Hot Rod Association Top Dragster second in 2001 and third in 2002. So he's continuing on. And he's not as old as I am, but he's getting up there. And in 2020, he was inducted into the Arkansas Motocross Hall of Fame. And today, he's been inducted into the Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame. Daniel Nelson.
As a Ford owner, you have
as Gary said, there's not a lot of people in our area that is familiar with drag racing or with building drag cars. And he pretty much covered from when we started until today. Started out as just a hobby, and then as Gary said, someone wanted to buy my car that I was building for myself in Mount Heights. So I sold it. And someone else wanted one. And it took me about 3 years to build myself one. But we got busy, and not long after that, Eddie Simmons has been with me now for over 30 years. And we make cars in all the United States and 3 different other countries. So we ship cars and sent cars basically all over the country. And as Gary said, I started racing when I was 10 years old. My dad took me to Newport, Arkansas. And that's when I decided I was going to be a drag racer. In 15, a bracket race. Ever since then, in 15, I started running the NHRA, National Hot Rod Association. And I had all this written down, and Gary pretty much covered it all, so now I'm just kind of ad-libbing or whatever. But in 19, I won the World Championship, went to Los Angeles for the banquet. That was a huge part of my life. And at the banquet, my granddaughter called me too. They went out there with me. And I got there and I was stuttering about like I am now. Only a lot worse because it was like 100 times this size. And all the people that I'd raced with for years, there were a lot of them. And I told them, I said, now I know what Jay Clampett felt like when he moved to Beverly Hills. But like I I say, I appreciate the Independence County Sports Hall of Fame for acknowledging me. And like I say, there's very soon there's going to be some stuff on Facebook, races and things like that. But as of now, I'm 68 years old. I still go 240 miles an hour in under 6 seconds and still win. So I feel pretty confident that I'm going to go for a few more years at least, and then just hopefully I can make it a few more years. So I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys. I've seen a lot of people that I haven't seen in a lot of years, and it's nice to meet everyone. And congratulations to all the other inductees. I played baseball in Little League, so that's something. My dad invited me to go to the drag races, and this is how all this got started. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
The reason I wanted you up here, Gary, I wanted you to tell that story about the school bus. You didn't tell it. Next inductee is Miss Diane Treadway. Diane Treadway grew up in Wisconsin and graduated from Richland Center High School in 1976. In high school, she was more interested in volleyball and was not known as a runner until her college days. Following high school, Treadway attended college at the University of Minnesota, Waseca, where she discovered her aptitude for running at an exceptional level. Eventually, she came to Arkansas College, which is now Lyon, and she earned All-American status in track and cross country in 81 and 82. She was later honored by both colleges, being inducted into the University of Minnesota Waseca Hall of Fame and the Lyon College Hall of Fame. After graduating from Lyon, she remained in Batesville and continued her running career, road racing, every kind of racing, in dominating fashion, both locally and elsewhere, and was named the Arkansas Female Road Runner of the Year in 1987. She spent several years volunteering as a running coach in the community and at Batesville High School. She later was employed as a cross-country coach for the Pioneers, having the ability to inspire youngsters to a higher goal-oriented work ethic, subsequently winning 7 state championships and being honored as the Arkansas High School Coaches Association Outstanding Coach of the Year 5 times. The other day I was at school and our swim team has won 3 state championships in a row, and we had a ring ceremony, and some of the parents says that's got to be a record, 3 straight state championships by one team. I said, I said, you ever heard of anyone named Diane Treadway? I said, the lady won 7 in a row in cross country, and that's the school record. After 19 years of teaching and coaching at BHS, she retired in 2019. 2024, she was recognized for her large number of athletic and coaching accomplishments by being inducted into the prestigious Arkansas Track and Field Hall of Fame. Remember, Diane and I graduated from Lyon College the same year. When I met her, she came back to teach at Batesville. We were talking about that. And she said, well, when did you graduate? I go, 1982. When did you? In 82. She goes, I don't remember you. I thought about it for a while, and I thought, that's probably good. Some of her athletic accomplishments include the following: 81-82 NAIA All-American honors in cross country and outdoor track at Arkansas College, 1987 Arkansas Female Road Runner of the Year, Lyon College Athletic Hall of Fame, University of Minnesota, is it Waseca?
Yes.
Waseca Hall of Fame, Richland Center High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Her coaching accomplishments at Batesville High School include the following: 7 consecutive 5A Division Team Cross Country State Championships from 2004 through 2010. 1 5A Division Team Cross Country State Runner-Up title 2011. Arkansas High School Coaches Association 5A Division Outstanding Coach of the Year for Girls Cross Country from 2004 through 2010. She coached 3 first-place finishers in the 5A Division Cross Country State Championships. She won the 5A East Conference Championship at 09, 10, 11, 12, 17. She was 5A East Conference Coach of the Year at 09, 10, 11, 12, and 17. As we said earlier, she was inducted in the Arkansas Track and Field Hall of Fame, and we are very proud tonight to induct Coach Diane Treadway into the class of 2024 of the Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame.
We were driving around in the back 40, what's called the back 40, the junior high, and trying to drive with me. And we're thinking about buying some land that we did buy. We laid it down, the buy hall, and up the other side. And I said, well, look, there's a trailer we can drive through there. He said, well, look, that's pretty good land. We can do some stuff with that. He said, you understand that Diane Treadway's cross country practice. You better not touch it. You know what? You better not touch it. And I didn't touch it.
Wow. That was nice, thanks. And I do, in my defense, I only went 1 year line and graduated, so I didn't quite forget you though. A lot of my, I guess, accomplishments, I never planned on any of this. I never planned on continuing to run, to coach, to teach. It all just came about by accident. And the only reason I ever kept running was I come from a family of 9. So our immediate family right now is about over 90. So you're always trying to find some way to stand out. And, all my brothers were wrestlers and football players, and I was the first girl that was going to be an athlete. And well, being a girl, that was a downfall right there. And my dad just never, he just never understood why I ever did it, because he never came. And I just told him, I didn't do it for you. I said, it hurts too much to do it for you. And and so when I came to Independence County, I had been here, I came in 81, 82, and I graduated, and I didn't intend to stay. And then 40 years later, I'm still here. But Independence County was great to me, and so was the state of Arkansas, because I had a lot of success running. And then it was, family is really important to me. So I ended up staying I met probably the nicest person I've ever run into, which is my husband, Larry Treadway. He's coached several of you and coached with several of you. And he's coached for 46 years. And when I started coaching, my daughter had just come up to 7th grade, and she was, I could talk her little buddies into all running, because 7th graders could talk into anything. And they stayed until their 9th grade year, and they were either going to be great or dead, one of the two, because they did an hour and a half of basketball a day, an hour of volleyball a day, and came to me for over an hour. And they were all mostly over a 4-point student. And so by the time we made it, they were old enough to run. We could have won it when they were younger, but you had to be a 9th grader. And so by the time they were 9th grades, when we went to the state meet, You know, it was Harrison that was winning every year. Actually, they have the record. They've won it for 8 years in a row. But it went to 3.1 miles instead of 2.4, which changed everything because then you couldn't just come off a basketball court and run 3.1. You could with a 2.4. So when it changed to that year that we ran, Harrison thought they were going to win again. Well, the coach from Southside said, you better watch out for the Batesville girls. And he said, well, why? I haven't even seen them. Well, the thing is, I never moved them up until the state meet. Most people move them up earlier in the year. But I knew they were going to win every junior high meet, so I waited. And sure enough, we kind of won like by about 70-some points. And then that was the legacy, because from that point on, now my daughter and none of her friends stayed past the 9th grade year. But I had so many that came in and filled the spots that they just kept winning. And so after we won 7 straight in a row and then second place their 8th year. So it was a family affair because my husband got to drive, my daughter got to run, and that would have been anybody's dream. And now our dream is to chase our granddaughter whatever she wants to do. So it's been a great experience, and thanks so much for inducting me into the Hall of Fame and to all the other inductees as well. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Gary. Come on up. Well, our next inductee, Mr. Ron Trusty, Gary paid me $20 to be able to come up and talk for him, so. Here he is.
I don't hear it very well, but I thought Ron said he had paid me $20 to say something good about him. And so I heard you was a pretty good car club guy. That's one. What about the next one? Anyway. Again, I got called into action a couple of days ago, and Ronnie Trusty, the real quick story is he grew up in Memphis. I assume you've seen some of the slideshows earlier on him. He grew up in Memphis. He learned to bowl at a young age, and he became a baseball player, a highly regarded baseball player in Memphis. So I'm not sure if they had any good baseball players there, but he was one of the best. And from there, and we're about the same age too, by the way, almost. And so he went to Memphis State and played baseball. Went to Mississippi State and played baseball. Then he went in quick order here, went to the Marines, the U.S. Marine Corps during the Vietnam era. And I'm not sure exactly when, but he came to Batesville on a business trip. And he thought, well, he got an offer or something. He said, I'll try it a year. And what is this? 50 years later, you're still here? And the other tongue-in-cheek humor, I guess, that everybody read The Guard back in the day. Well, and he was part of the Sweet and Cream crew. We ran around circles around town and all that. And we soon found out he was pretty good at playing games. He just played games all his life, I guess. And but in The Guard is Ronnie Trusty did this. Ronnie Trusty does this. Ronnie Trusty. Well, I wasn't sure I liked that guy. He could do everything. But in the end, I found something that I liked. He became a writer for the baseball guard. Do y'all remember those where they do the stories about bowling or about baseball? He was a writer for several years. And so now he's a journalist. I'm beginning to respect him more. But that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. But he was out and about a lot. And he also, after he became older, he still was good at everything. But from what I understand, he did a lot, I'm being serious, a lot of mentoring other people, trying to teach them how they could bowl or play baseball, softball better, and served in a bunch of sports-related organizations and put in his time that way as a civic guy. And he seemed to have a passion to trying to help other people get better, as long as they didn't get better than he was. So, let's see. Did I cover it? He became a well-respected softball player fairly early in the 70s. Always played on high-profile teams. Gary Bridgman would probably fill us in better on this. Winning numerous tournaments locally and statewide, but he also got into some national tournaments, finishing 5th in the USSSA World Masters Tournament and some others, and played for some very high-profile softball teams, men's softball teams out of Little Rock. And so we copied for bowling. That's really why we're here today. He's got so many honors and achievements in bowling. And you read in the guard, he bowled a 300 again. He bowled a 700 again. And here we go. Arkansas Bowler of the Year in '82, Gazette Bowler of the Year, same year. Star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, UBC Hall of Fame, 2005, numerous Pro-Am tournaments. And speaking of that, somebody told me that if he had concentrated on golf, he would have been an elite golfer also. And so many people told me that, I believe it. And I already mentioned as giving back, serving, mentoring, and coaching those that needed assistance in writing and the baseball guard. He was inducted into the Arkansas USB Hall of Fame in 2023. If you'll notice, a lot of our people here just kind of stepped down. They've already been to the big time, but they appreciate it here too. And so today, we're inducting Ron Trusty into Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame in 2022. And you can come on up and pay me for all the good words I said.
Very honored to be part of this program with a lot of these nice people. And one thing he didn't say about me, there was one person here, and I apologize, I don't remember his name, he said he picked baseball. Well, I want to tell you, baseball picked me. I came over here, the boss said, we got an opening in baseball. We need somebody over there to do the job. And I said, well, baseball, Mississippi. I'm from Mississippi. He said, no, it's baseball, Arkansas. I thought, where the hell is that? I'd never been here. So I got my wife, newly married wife, Sharon, back here, my rock. And I told her, I said, we're going to move to baseball, Arkansas. And she said, I'm not moving to baseball, Arkansas. Well, I was able to talk her into it. You know, I think it came down, when we came down the mountain from Ball Knob and up the mountain and saw this beautiful river and the hunting and fishing that a person can do, I fell in love with it. A year later, I was falling more in love with it. I met so many nice people. I thought I was going to be not wanted here. I'm just a country boy from Mississippi. But these people here just took me in, made me part of it, made me feel at home. I felt at home. Next thing I know, my wife said, I kind of like this. And I said, I do too. It's the people you meet and the people you surround yourself with that makes you a better person. And all these people, especially in this room, I know hundreds of them. I don't know if there's 100 here or not. But I know y'all, and you know me. I've never met a person in this town that said anything bad or rude to me or my family. And that's the kind of people I want to be around. And I appreciate everything that the Independence County Horse Sports Hall of Fame has done for me and all of you people being friends to me. And about a year after we were here, I said, I think this is a nice place to have a family. And it must have worked because 9 months later, my daughter Sherry was born. And we raised a family here, and that was 55 years ago. And I'm here to stay. And I love this town, and I love these people. Thank you so much.
Gary just kids around, acts like he doesn't like to talk up here, but he loves to talk. Matter of fact, Gary's known for giving the most famous introductory speech in the history of the Hall of Fame when he inducted Charlie Webb in on October 4th and 5th, 2002. Get it? 2 days. All right, our next inductee is Harold Wilson. Harold Sonny Wilson was born and grew up in Batesville, Arkansas, graduating from Batesville High School in 1971. While he had a passion for playing sports during his high school year, he especially relished opportunities to study them. Wilson's 130-pound frame did not bode well for his otherwise acceptable football play, but he was enamored with track and field. He reluctantly admits to some success as a pioneer, and the 800 and 1600 events were very good. Honoring his parents' wishes, he gave full-time attention to academics after enrolling in Arkansas State University. Nonetheless, in his free hours, he continued to study sports and athletics while nurturing a career goal that would permit full-time attention to both. Coach Wilson coached at Mountain View and Siloam Springs before going to Heber Springs after getting his degree in 1975 from Arkansas State University. He later earned a master's degree in 1989 from Arkansas State. He introduced and developed a cross-country program that revived a sputtering track program when he went to Heber Springs, guiding the Heber Springs Panthers to 18 consecutive track championships and 10 team state championships. Almost all of his other teams were very competitive and near the top of any meet they attended. I always remember I used to love to go to Heber Springs for their track meets. He was first class. Coach Wilson, Heber Springs was always first class in track and field, and you wanted to go to their meets because of the way they were ran with professionalism all the time. And I couldn't wait to go. Even back in the days when they had a Red Dog track, they'd have to, for you guys that don't remember Red Dog track, Coach Wilson would have to go out there and line the lanes just like it was a baseball field. And we still love to go over there and run and compete against the Panthers because you know they were going to always have a great team to run against. And they became recognized as one of the premier track programs in the state of Arkansas. Coach Wilson coached 54 athletes who garnered All-State in track and field. 32 who earned 49 event state championships, and 11 who set state track and field records. 5 were meet champions and 1 state decathlon champion. 2 of his stalwarts vied for national honors on the prestigious Golden West Invitational meet in the pole vault in 1986, and then later the decathlon in 1991. His coaching tree includes Dr. Jimmy Patchell, the head coach at Arkansas State University, who is just one of the youngsters who benefited from the always positive tutelage of Coach Wilson. A host of accolades have come Coach Wilson's way, and rightly so. He's often referred to as a track guru, and I know for me, when he came to Batesville as an administrator, he wasn't coaching track anymore, but man, I knew I had to go to him and ask him if he please would. And luckily, we had 2 girls that were very competitive, and I said, Coach Wilson, they need someone to push them to another level. I knew he would do it, and I don't know that Coach Wilson had coached girls runners much before then. I don't think he had at all, as a matter of fact. But man, he came out there and took those 2 girls, and of course, they were state champions, set state records, and they couldn't wait to get to track practice every day with Coach Wilson, because I saw firsthand how he pushed somebody to be the very, very best. As we said, a host of accolades have come his way, and he's very humble about all of them. The Arkansas Gazette named him Track Coach of the Year in 1984 and Arkansas Activity Association Coach of the Year in 85, 96, and 97. Shortly after, he was named the principal of Heber Springs High School and was honored as the Arkansas Principal of the Year in 2001. He finished his career at Batesville High School as a highly regarded assistant principal for 11 years, including 3 as a cross-country coach, completed a total of 44 years in public school education. He was inducted into the Arkansas Track and Field Hall of Fame in 2011. I'm going to say one thing I do know about Coach Wilson. If you go to Heber Springs, Arkansas, and you mention his name, you will see the high regard he has held in that community. It's unbelievable. Yeah, everybody knows Coach Wilson, and he's done so much for so many people to make their lives better, and I was very fortunate to get to coach with him, to work with him, and very fortunate to call him friend. So it's with our honor and privilege that we induct Coach Harold Wilson into the 2024 class of the Independent School.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Gary, and the whole committee that's behind this organization. Thank you guys for all the work that you do. I know Gary has gone beyond, I'll steal his line from when I go up and above. Yeah, he went above to make this program happen for everyone tonight, and I thank you for that. I really do. I'm sorry, Gary. In all honesty, let's just be as total honest as we can, and that's me. I think Stu will tell you, I'm always an honest guy. May not always like to hear it, but I'm going to be honest. The great truth of this whole thing is they just read off a bunch of accomplishments of a bunch of kids. I never ran a race. I never jumped over a bar. I didn't do any of those things. I had a lot of kids who came and prepared to go compete and do those things. And I was just fortunate to have them. So, and on that line, let me say this. I'm not a gambler. I have a friend who loves, where Mr. Wamsley go? I got a friend that loves betting on the horses. I'm telling you, he lives in Hot Springs, and he's done his best to try to teach me how to read the racing form. He said, Coach, it's like track. All you got to do is learn which ones, and you can pick them.
I don't care anything about gambling. I am not a gambler. It's just not going to happen. But I'm going to tell you, if I could be as lucky with the horses, as lucky with the wheels spinning as I have been in having the right kids come and work in our programs, I could probably own Vegas. Okay? Let me just say it like it is. God has blessed me in more ways than you can imagine. I was that little 130 pound, and that's no stretch of the imagination. Some of these other things I think might have been stretched, but it's no stretch of the imagination. I was a 130 pound senior athlete. That's what I weighed on the night of the state track meet my senior year. A week later at graduation, I weighed 135, and I was on my way to 200 pounds. So, still climbing. But I had been blessed all my life. I was blessed with great parents who taught me right from wrong, how to work and deal with other people, which fed over, I think, into working with the kids that I worked with. I was blessed to have a brother, and my mom and brother are here tonight, and I'm blessed that they are here to share in this moment. I am blessed to have my entire family here. My wife and I have 3 kids, their spouses, and all of my grandkids are here tonight. So, again, I am blessed. And I want everyone to know, and I'd love to tell you, hey, I worked hard. I busted my backside. I studied all the books, and I know all the tricks on how to make pole vaulters great, distance runners great. But that would be the biggest lie told in a room full of coaches and athletes. And boy, it's to top a bunch of coaches and a bunch of athletes and lies, I've done something. I'm not going to tell that lie. Been very fortunate. God is still blessing me in so many ways. I'm now watching my son, who was a great vaulter for us at Heber, who is now coaching his daughter. And so he's feeling some of my pain from years ago. And Coach King, you stole some of my thunder a while ago. And, you know, if you're a coach, and all you coaches know this, you've got mentors. Somebody helped shape you. And there's so many of them. And I'm going to go all the way back to Coach Van Reynolds, my junior high football coach, track coach. Love that little guy to death. All the way up through Coach Sammy Weir, who was a tough fellow. Coach Buster Johnson, who I dearly love. Buster Johnson basically one-handed, single-handed, got me my first coaching job. And without him, I'm probably still working down Piggly Wiggly sacking groceries. So I will always be grateful to Coach Buster. Coach Guy Kochel will always be one of my favorite mentors, a man I listen to, and if he said it, I bought into it. And he told us guys, to a group of young coaches one day, he said, there's 2 things you need to know if you're going to coach. Number 1, if you're going to get married, make sure you get the right girl for a wife. Because if you don't, your life is not going to be very happy. You could be headed for a miserable life. Find the right lady to be your wife. Folks, no offense, little Deb, because you know I love you to death. But I got at least your equal, if not better. But my wife, some of you will know her, Kitty Skinner, formerly. Her father was Thurman Skinner and Sue Skinner, their daughter. They graciously allowed her to marry me. And but I'm telling you, she's as bigger part of our success with our track program as I ever was. In that she supported our kids, cooked meals for kids, and I know, Stu, you've had a lot of kids in your home. Anybody that's coached has had kids in their home. And probably the worst thing we ever did was we ate chicken spaghetti for, I think, 9 Wednesday nights in a row. Because if we ever did something and we won that Friday night, everything had to go the same next week. And a couple of kids made a mistake, came to the house one Wednesday,
We had chicken spaghetti. They were so sick. I think they threw the next game, that last game. I think they just threw it. But I got to tell you, God has always surrounded me with great people, people who shaped my life. And one of those is sitting in here with us tonight. And you can't mention everybody. I'm going to get in trouble here, but I've been in trouble before. There's a great man sitting back there with Coach King. His name is Ted Hall. Ted Hall has been like a brother. He's been like a son to my mom and dad. Took care of my dad when my dad's health was not so good, and I was off at Heber Springs. But he's just been a true friend to me throughout our entire lives. We chased each other. We met in Mountain View. I went to Silo and he went to Prince. Well, I wasn't happy where I was. He wasn't happy where he was. I got a job at Heber Springs. Boom, he gets a job at Batesville. So we've kind of paralleled each other a lot, and he has meant the world to us. Let me mention someone else who's in the room. Just so that you know, if you had kids come through the program, or you got kids that are getting ready to come through the program, don't know how much longer he's going to be there, but listen, at Heber Springs, we used to open up with Batesville Junior High every year. There was a reason behind that. I'm not going to bore you with it. But we would come down here with our 35, 40 kids and line up against Batesville on the other side of the field. It seemed like they had 100 kids. Probably not 100, but it seemed like they had that many. And guys, they could have beat us 100-0 by halftime if they wanted to. But the gentleman over there named Doug Walls cared as much for our kids as he did his kids. And he never embarrassed our kids, never embarrassed our program. All of his kids got to play, and it was a good, healthy thing. For years we did that. Such a gentleman Doug Walls is, and I just want to thank you for that cover. I'll shut this up because I know you guys have been waiting on me for a good hour and a half. How do I know you've been waiting on me? Because I'm the last one. I've been blessed with great athletes. I'm reading some good ones. And been able to travel. One year we got to travel to New York City, actually up to Yale University and compete. We went to Chicago and competed, and been to the Golden West and Sacramento on a couple of occasions with our athletes. Again, I'd love to tell you, they got there because of me. They got there because they were talented kids, and I was smart enough not to get in their way. Okay? Folks, thank y'all. I was joking with a gentleman here earlier tonight. These things, these accomplishments or whatever that somebody's giving me credit for, I think the truth's been greatly exaggerated. But nevertheless, I am very pleased and happy to be a part of this. I want to say congratulations to the other inductees. And in particular, it's an honor to be inducted with my good friend Dave King, Diane Treadway, who I got the privilege to work with over the last few years of my career. Great people. And another old boy out there. I can't say anything good about him because it would hurt my pride to say anything good about my other good friend, James Milam. But Brother James, as we affectionately call him, if I've coached 1,000 track meets, Brother James started, how many was it, Stu? How many has he started?
347.
347. Stu had a count on that one night. So, hey folks, thank y'all. I want you to know that God has blessed me immensely, beyond measure. I hope that He will bless you in your lives. Thank y'all.
That reminds me, Coach Wilson calls James Brother James all the time. His girls coach, Coach Goldman, got to thinking that James was a preacher. Because he referred to his brother James, so got at a meet one time, and she asked if James would come up and say the opening prayer. Brother James Mott. What I'd like to do now, there used to be a really nice tradition that I always liked when I'd come to these events back in the last millennium. And it involved Gary B. And every time we had an induction ceremony, it ended with Gary B. reading the roll of people that were in the Hall of Fame. And he did such a great job at it. I'd like you to come up here and do that one more time as we end tonight, Gary. Is that possible? After we're done here, I'd like all inductees to come up to the stage here. Let's get group pictures made, and everyone feel free to take any picture you want to. Here in front of the banner. Over here, I'm sorry. It'll be over there, right there. Yeah. Well, they can take some pictures here. Oh, yeah. All right. Come on, Gary. This is
as we begin tonight to get up and be leaving this place, we hope that you have had a good time, that you enjoyed being here, and that you'll look forward to coming back when this is held again. Let me start reading off these names, and you can come, you can leave as you'd like. Let's go to 1988. The Independence County Area Sports Hall of Fame inducted Harlan Brody, Paul McCarson, Tom Murphy, Bobby Smith, and Dick Winningham. And you get a gold star if you can tell me which one was a coach. Dick Winningham, you say? You're correct. In 1989, there's Pop, to lead them off, Paul Pop Faulkner, Fred Hageman, Lowell Manning, Bobby Rutherford, and Henry Lee Porter Stewart. I know a lot of you remember Porter. I recall him as being one of the best athletes I believe I've ever seen. Just superb. In 1990, Pryor Evans, Wesley Goff, L. Harris, who later became superintendent of the Batesville Public School System, and Derwood McGahey, who for years was the principal at West Elementary. 1991, Wesley Carpenter, Chuck Fry, Billy Hicks, Bill Menard. Who recalls Bill Menard? Fast one. Where's Bill? He's over there. Bill Menard. Been a long time since I've thought about Bill. Roscoe Williams. In 1992, Lucifer Nelson Bailey, Billy Gilbreth, and Estes McDonald. 1993, R.V. and Arville Burks, or the Burks brothers, who were outstanding athletes. Don Lockhart, Tommy Thompson, or Tommy Taylor. In 1994, George Kell. Who remembers George Kell? George Kell was quite a baseball player, played third base, as I recall, Bill. Is that right? Yeah. He was a third baseman, and we met him while he was here in Batesville, attending a ball game of all things. But he was an outstanding athlete. O.L. Broadwater, Omagene Barnes Brown, Sonny Conine, Nick Gocher, Charles Taylor, all from 1995. In 1996, the old coach, Skip Carpenter. He stood about that tall, but he was quite a coach. Billy Morris, Keith Sims of the Sims brothers, Terry and Keith, and I think there was another, which I don't recall. Curly. I don't know why I couldn't remember Curly. That ought to be a natural thing. Curly Sims. I don't know why they called him Curly. His hair wasn't curly. He didn't have any hair. Anyway, interesting. Where were we? Bobby, Dean Evans, Calvin Smith, Jim Vandenberg, 1997. 1998, Tommy Neal Dozier, Jim Haney. All remember Jim Haney from, where's he from? Outside of Batesville. Fulton County, Salem, Arkansas. He was quite an athlete. Ellis McIntosh, 1999. Mark Martin. I wonder how he got into this. Oh, what a racer he was. And loved it, loved it. He'd even skip dinner to do that. Betsy Mitchum, Tracy Webb Rice, and Charlie Strong. It's quite a group of athletes in 1999. 2000, Bill Davis, Joe Franks, Amber Nicholas Shively, and Stuart Smith. The Stu that was on stage here with us a few moments ago. 2001, Tom Davis. I was there one night and watched Tom play. He was a basketball player from Bethesda. And he had a pretty good night. I think he scored 52 points for Batesville. Probably didn't score more than 65, so he shot a lot too. Tracy Stewart Lang, Ricky Medlock, the great basketball player from Cave City. Frank Shell, in 2002, become former coach at Lyon College. Good friend for many years, passed on now. Terry Garner. Francis Bertie Rogers, Charlie Webb, and Johnny Guthrie. 2004, Bernice Duke. You know where Bernice is from? Who remembers? Newport? You're right. Terry Sims, one of the Sims brothers we were talking about, Harry Thompson. Then 2005, Vern Garner, Frank Nelson, and Larry Shaw. Larry knows a little bit about racing. Knows a lot. Brian Baker, Scott Crossett, Bobby Hill from 2010, 2011. Kevin Johnson from the Johnson Brothers at Mount Pleasant. Kim George Robinson and Dan Wright. Dan was quite a pitcher, wasn't he? As they said many times, he could bring. 2018, Don Fowler, Billy Moyer, George Snowgrove, George Terry, Curtis Wainwright, and Melinda Wyatt. Sports Hall of Fame members in 2022, Donna Branson, Alonzo Childress, Bill Luster, Chris Westervelt, and Nicole Wilk. And in 2024, Bill Carson, Daniel Hagwood, Dave King, later become head coach at Batesville, Mark Lambert, voice with a pride. We lived it as long as we did it, didn't we, Mark? Sure did. Gosh, the stories we could tell that we're not going to. Unless Shelton comes along and tells them, just to make us mad. Danny Nelson, Diane Treadway, Ron Trusty. You ever see him bowl? I saw him have a bad game one time, and he bowled about 230, I think, that game. He was good. I taught him how to do that. Harold Sonny Wilson. My goodness, what a lineup there is. Hope you've enjoyed the program tonight and that you will come back and be a part of it again. There's in front of you 22 years, I think, of Hall of Fame members, starting off in 1988 and going through 2024. It's good to see everybody tonight. Hope you had a good time and that you'll come back and we'll do this all again. Good night.